Hi there, hope you are doing fine. This is Mr. Philip Koma, the excellent tutor. This video is all about John the Baptist. We're going to learn about the birth of John the Baptist. The story is in the book of Luke chapter 1 verse 5 to 24. And the other part of the story is in Luke chapter 1 verse 57 to 66. So without wasting much of your time, let us begin. So the birth of John the Baptist. It's in Luke chapter 1, verse 5 to 25. Let us read together. So when Herod was king of Judea, there was a Jewish priest named Zachariah. He was a member of the priestly order of Abijah, and his wife Elizabeth was also from the priestly line of Aaron. Zachariah and Elizabeth were righteous in God's eyes, careful to obey all the Lord's commandments and regulations. They had no children because Elizabeth was unable to conceive, and they were both very old. Verse 8. One day, Zachariah was serving God in the temple, for his order was on duty that week. As was the custom of the priests, he was chosen by lot to enter the sanctuary of the Lord and burn incense. While the incense was being burned, a great crowd stood outside praying. Verse 11. While Zachariah was in the sanctuary, an angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing to the right of the incense altar. Zachariah was shaken and overwhelmed with fear when he saw him. But the angel said, "Don't be afraid, Zachariah. God has heard your prayer. Your wife Elizabeth will give you a son, and you are to name him John. You will have great joy and gladness, and many will rejoice at his birth. For he will be great in the eyes of the Lord. He must never touch wine or other alcoholic drinks. He will be filled with the Holy Spirit even before his birth, and he will turn many Israelites to the Lord their God." Verse 17. He will be a man with the spirit and power of Elijah. He will prepare the people for the coming of the Lord. He will turn the hearts of the fathers to their children, and he will cause those who are rebellious to accept the wisdom of the godly. Verse 18. Zachariah said to the angel, "How can I be sure this will happen? I'm an old man now, and my wife is also well along in years." Verse 19. Then the angel said, "I am Gabriel. I stand in the very presence of God. It was he who sent me to bring you this good news. But now, since you didn't believe what I said, you will be silent and unable to speak until the child is born. For my words will certainly be fulfilled at the proper time." Verse 21. Meanwhile, the people were waiting for Zachariah to come out of the sanctuary, wondering why he was taking so long. When he finally did come out, he couldn't speak to them. Then they realized from the gestures and his silence that he must have seen a vision in the sanctuary. Verse 23. When Zachariah's week for service in the temple was over, he returned home. Soon afterward, his wife Elizabeth became pregnant and went into seclusion for 5 months. "How kind the Lord is!" she exclaimed. He has taken away my disgrace of having no children." So from this passage, this was the announcement of the birth of John the Baptist. Okay, so you need to follow the story. When they ask you in an exam, just follow the story the way you've heard it. Okay, you can write it in your own words. That's the good part with RE 2046. You can narrate in your own words. So make sure that you follow the story. Now let's look at the other part of the birth of John the Baptist, which is in Luke chapter 1, verse 57 to 66. So verse 57. When it was time for Elizabeth's baby to be born, she gave birth to a son. 58. And when her neighbors and relatives heard the Lord had been very merciful to her, everyone rejoiced with her. Verse 59. When the baby was 8 days old, they all came for the circumcision ceremony. They wanted to name him Zachariah after his father. But Elizabeth said, "No, his name is John." 61. "What?" they exclaimed. "There is no one in all your family by that name." 62. So they used gestures to ask the baby's father what he wanted to name him. 63. He mentioned for a writing tablet, and to everyone's surprise, he wrote his name is John. 64. Instantly, Zachariah could speak again, and he began praising God. 65. Awe fell upon the whole neighborhood, and the news of what had happened spread throughout the Judean hills. Then 66. Everyone who heard about it reflected on these events and asked, "What will this child turn out to be? For the hand of the Lord was surely upon him in a special way." So this is a passage which is talking about the birth now, when John the Baptist was born, and his naming, okay, how he was named, and the events that took place before he was named. So these are the passages that they can bring in an exam. So make sure to go through this passage as well. It's very much important. It's part of your exam. Yeah. So go through this passage in your own Bible. I hope you're using a Good News Bible. That's the good one, which you can use in RE. Otherwise, go through the two parts. The first part was talking about the announcement of the birth of John the Baptist, and then this part is talking about the birth of John the Baptist and the events that took place before he was named. Okay, so go through the passages. Very important. All right, now let's look at John the Baptist being a Nazarite. Okay, separated one. John the Baptist was to be raised as a Nazarite. If you can recall, when an angel appeared to Zachariah, he also gave instructions on how this child should live. So John the Baptist was a Nazarite, and there are some rules that have to be followed when you are a Nazarite. Okay, so a Nazarite is not allowed to, number one, no drinking of alcohol. They are not allowed to drink alcohol. They shouldn't be close to any alcoholic, liquid. They are not allowed to drink alcohol as, Nazarites. They are not allowed to cut their hair. So if you were to look at John the Baptist, you would think this person is a mad person, because that's how Nazarites are. Those are the rules that they follow, okay? They are not allowed to cut their hair, their beards. They are not allowed to cut their hair, okay? And then they are not allowed to go near or touching any dead body. They are not allowed to be near or to touch any dead body. So John the Baptist was a Nazarite. We need to keep that in mind. And those are the rules or the things that Nazarites follow. Now let's look at the purpose of John's life and ministry. So the angel gave Zachariah the following reasons for John's birth. Remember, the angel also gave instructions, and he also gave reasons for the birth of John the Baptist. So he would be a forerunner of the Messiah. John was born to simply prepare the way for the coming Messiah. More like to prepare the hearts for the people, so that when the Messiah comes, okay, these people will be ready to receive him. Okay, so John the Baptist, he would be a forerunner of the Messiah. Okay, he would be a healer of the discord, those that are sick, those that have turned away from the things of God. He was the one to bring them back. He would heal them from that, turning away. In Hebrew, they call it teshuvah. Teshuvah simply means going back home. going back to your old ways. Okay, that's what it means, teshuva. So he was a healer of the discord, those who started doing things that are not of God. So he had to tend them, he had to heal them from that lifestyle. So he was the healer of the discord. He would be a spiritual Elijah. If you look at the life of Elijah, he did many great things, and John the Baptist would be a spiritual Elijah. Okay. He would prepare the nation for the coming of the Messiah. I think this point relates to the first point, which is him being the forerunner. So he would prepare the nation for the coming of the Messiah. So preparing the hearts, preaching about the kingdom, preaching about the coming of the Messiah, so that these people can be expectant. So he would prepare the nation for the coming of the Messiah. So that's the purpose of John's life, and that's what his ministry was all about. Now, some additional information. How names are chosen and given to the infants. Okay. Names can either be chosen before or after the baby is born. Now, this is what usually happens, even in our homes, even in our modern times. Okay. There are some families where they will choose a name before a child is born, and there are some families they'll choose a name after child is born. So once a child is born, that's when they'll decide to give that child a name. And we can see that from the if you look at the birth of John the Baptist, John's name was actually given before, okay, because he was told to say this person should be what named John. Okay, that's how Elizabeth and Zachariah knew, because they were told to say this child should be given this name. So John was given the name before he was born. Okay, but there are some families they give the names after. Even Jesus' name was given before, because when the angel announced to Mary, he even told Mary the name that she should give the child. Okay, he even told Joseph the name that he should give to the child. So meaning Jesus's name was given before he was born. Okay, otherwise names can either be chosen before or after the baby is born. The baby is named after a living relative or an ancestor. Okay, there are some families they'll give names to their children which are for their past relatives or ancestors. But in John's case, that wasn't the case. Okay, in John's naming, that wasn't the case. John's name was never a name of a past relative. That's why the people were shocked. Why are you naming him John? Because there's no one in your family who has that name. So in John's naming, that wasn't the case. Otherwise, there are some families that will give names after their past relatives. Circumstances or situations can sometimes determine the name of the baby. Okay, circumstances or situations can sometimes determine the name of the baby. E.g., Mwendalubi. I don't know how to pronounce this name, but it's in Bemba. Okay, Mwendalubi. Mother dies while giving birth. That's what it means. So if the baby was born and the mother died when she was giving birth to that baby can be named this name, Mwendalubi, meaning mother dies while giving birth. There's some maybe a child was born in a terrible situation. Maybe the family was poverty and things like that, and then they will call the child Mavuto, because that child was born in poverty. So sometimes names that are given, they depend on the situation and the circumstances in which that child was born. Yeah. Why are birth traditions and customs important? Why are they important? Why are birth traditions? Because there are some traditions that they will follow when a child is born. If you look at the life of John the Baptist, he had to be circumcised and things like that. So why are these traditions and customs important? Let's find out. Appreciation of new life. That's the first reason we appreciate new life. Okay. Identity of the baby. Identify yourself to a certain tribe, so there will be some traditions that will be conducted. Continuity of life. Okay, so it's a sign that when there's a new baby that has been born, that's a continuity of life, continuity of your lineage, things like that. It shows the usefulness of the child to the community. It shows the usefulness of the child to the community. So that's the additional information that you need to know. How names are chosen and given to the infants, and why are birth traditions and customs important. So these points, they apply even to our modern society today. Okay, so yeah, that's the additional information that I had for you. All right, so we come to an end. In our next video, we're going to look at the ministry of John the Baptist. Stay blessed.